very much. Oh, I think that's happening.
I think it is.
Excellent. Morning, everybody, on this lovely Sunday. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'd like to firstly introduce myself, because nobody else is going to. So in case nobody knows, I'm Belinda Jackson. I'm a professional wino of many years. And it was an absolute delight to do this for the first time. I better stop doing that, really. To do this for the first time last year, chatting to Nick Bollinger. And I was truly delighted when they said, would you do it again? And I thought, wow, yeah, I would actually. That would be amazing. So it's an absolute pleasure to be here with Nici this morning. So that's probably it for the formalities. What I really am here to do, of course, is chat to Nici and wheedle some things out of her that you're going to find absolutely fascinating and have you rushing off to buy her wonderful books. So Nici has actually gone from very much corporate life in the middle of the city in Auckland through to what I can only describe as her true self, living in a wee tiny house on the beach. And there's an awful lot of in between there, which we're going to try and chat about today. But I think if I was to describe Nici in the short time that I have known her, just about 3 days, what comes through to me is this tremendous authenticity. There is a real fearlessness about Nici. And I think that she is incredibly courageous. And I say that because the path that she's chosen is not what everybody would have the courage to do. So I'm really interested to find out more about that, Nici. So thank you very much, everybody. Nick.
Can I just say what an absolute pleasure it is to be here in Marlborough. This is the most beautiful festival and we've been so well looked after, and writers' festivals, book festivals are my all-time favourite conferences in the whole of the world, and it's so special when a centre decides to have one of their own, and now you're in 10 years, and I think that's all credit to the great team that you've got. Yeah,
that's a really good point. The committee are absolutely fabulous, and here's to another 10 years of bringing this to Blenheim. I should also actually mention the sponsors, seeing as it's funnily enough Lawson's Dry Hill. Oh, that's not Lawson's Dry Hills, but something had to go wrong, and if that's all it is, then that's really quite fine. Hopefully you may have spotted Marcus out there from Lawson's Dry Hills, which of course is my day job as well, and along with the other wineries that are here, Dog Point, Astrolab and Cloudy Bay, plus of course Jim Tannock and other people that are on board. You know, they very much contribute to the book festival, so it's a pleasure for us to be here pouring wine as well. I did note a few of you coming in with glasses. That's impressive at this hour of the morning. Well done, well done. Well done. So kicking things off, Nici, I think it makes sense to go back to the beginning. I mean, not right back, but just as far as where the food thing came in. So can you start us off with how this love of food happened and how it became your career?
Sure. You know, I feel as though I've had some very distinct chapters in my life. So food has been a constant thread throughout and a real joy of mine, but it wasn't anything that I ever thought that I could actually do for a living, as it were. So really for the first 40 years of my life, I did what I thought I should be doing. I did things that I was good at and that people said I was good at. So I did a lot of leadership training and resilience and work with businesses and business growth work and that sort of thing. And I was fascinated by the minds of the entrepreneurs. And then at 40 and a half, that sort of all changed. And it doesn't feel like a very dramatic change to me in some ways, but I look back now and I can't believe I gave up a job that was really extremely well paid and sort of eased my way out of that, and then went to an audition because somebody said, oh, they're auditioning for a food show, a new cooking show on TV. And of course, I loved cooking shows. I'd loved them, the Nigella and the Jamies, the Hudson and Halls from, years ago, when I couldn't understand why these two men were mucking everything up and arguing so much and all of that. And so I went along to this audition, and I you know, other people may have the same experience. When something is about to change, I think there's a profoundness, almost expansion of time where, was I nervous about the audition? Did I think I would get it, not get it? None of that, it was almost like a portal opened up. That sounds really wacky, but I went along to this audition. I heard that during the audition they wanted us to cook an omelette, and my heart absolutely sank because I'm not a great lover of, I use a lot of eggs, but I don't love an egg. And I knew from being at cooking school, I must have done that previous years, I did. I knew that, you know, a proper French omelette was sort of quite wobbly, and I just can't stand that. That just, ugh. So I thought, I know, I'll make a Spanish tortilla, which is like a frittata. And I can still remember standing there in the audition, putting this together, and also talking. I'd never spoken to camera before or anything. It was just in an old house in Greyland, sort of, that had a countertop, and there's a bank of sort of cameras as an audition. I didn't know anything, but I do have an ability to look like I know what I'm doing. So I was making this, you know, this frittata, and I remember at the time I was talking about, and I was saying, oh, an omelette, I don't like an omelette. An omelette's for sort of sad single people on a Saturday night sort of thing, you know. You should never find yourself having an omelette.
I had a bloody omelette last night.
Well, there you go, you see. But I bet it was a good omelette. And I said, I'm going to make a Spanish tortilla, which is, you know, da-da-da-da. And I can sort of remember at the time that the sort of camera people, I don't know who was who really, but I can remember sort of seeing their shoulders shaking with laughter. I don't know if that was a good or a bad thing, I had no idea. And then at the end of that audition, it wasn't too long, they had somebody interview me and, you know, mock-up interview. And then one of the camera guys sort of poked his head out from beside the camera and said, oh, that was just like watching a cooking show. And I was like, oh, that's got to be a good thing. And they sort of slowly whittled it down from 50 people they auditioned.
Oh, wow.
And then I was away doing some more corporate training, you know, leading the training in Aussie in this rainforest. And I just finished a 3-day workshop. I was completely exhausted, saw my phone was sort of going, and finally got around to answering it when I just sort of shoved all these clients off. And the person said, look, they've chosen you. And I was like, oh, my God. And it was only then and it was in that one conversation, because everything in TV happens so bloody last minute. And so then it was, I knew nothing about the cooking show ended up called World Kitchen. But then they were like, so the whole premise of the show is that you will travel around the world looking for great chicken recipes. I was like, okay. All right, okay. So where would you like to go? We need 6 countries. And I'm like, okay, well, look, France, you know, seat of cuisine, must go there. Italy, Spain, definitely. I hadn't been to any of those countries myself because they'd always been too far away. Every time I saved up enough money, which was always only about $5,000, I'd hear off to somewhere in Southeast Asia because, you know, it was cheap, or, you know, I'd wanted to go to France for years, but I couldn't, so I went to the next biggest thing, which was Vietnam and that sort of thing, you know. Anyway, so I said, well, France, Italy, Spain. You know, let's face it, that's obvious. And then I said, and then I think it would be great to have some episodes around some Asian-style cuisine. So I think if we went to sort of Bali as part of Indonesia, Malaysia and Thailand, and they said, great, lock it in, we're done. I was like, I literally put the phone down. I was like, Jane, like, how's this going to work? And I also didn't know back in those days that nothing in TV is for sure. So, you know, we did 4 or 5 seasons in the end of that show, but each time it was like, I never really believed it was going to happen until I was literally at the airport. But that first one, you know, I worked in the corporate world, I just thought, okay, that's done. And then there was a very quick process of getting all of that booked and done. But I look back now and what I know of TV and film and how precarious it is, and think that is amazing that ever got off the ground, you know? Yeah, it was extraordinary. Yeah.
Tremendous. And you built such a following, I think, through that, which, whilst you've done other things on the in-between, maybe that's gone full circle and come back with all of your amazing Instagram lockdown, stunning pieces to camera.
Yeah.
in the in-between. But of course there was editor of Women's Weekly.
And then,
Food editor,
yes,
sorry.
that's correct. And at the same time as World Kitchen, I was the food editor for Viva, which is the sort of lifestyle magazine of the Herald. And I was brought on to do the restaurant reviews, which again was such a brilliant job. I have loved restaurants for as long as I have been alive. And my parents, I wouldn't say we've been a terribly wealthy family, but my parents have definitely that they'd rather take us out for dinner than to have the latest car, for example, you know. So we've always gone out for dinner and cafes. Mum, well, you can't tell my mother of a new cafe. She'll already know of it and that sort of thing. So restaurant reviewing was delightful for me, and I probably didn't understand the weight of that job until I had written my first quite harsh review of a very well-known restaurant in Auckland. And I remember I went to it the night before I was heading off snowboarding, and I'd gone to this restaurant that I'd heard a lot about over the years and always wanted to go there. And we went, and I thought it was appalling.
Oh, God.
I mean, it wasn't, terrible, but it was really not great. We
No.
weren't really made to feel that welcome, not as a reviewer, but just, me and my sister went. She knows a lot about food, and we probably looked a bit scraggy, a bit like this. And we didn't intentionally do that, but, and I remember then heading off and, deadlines with newspapers and things, and I headed off to go snowboarding, and I remember calling my editor and saying, I can't write it up. It was a shocker. I think at that stage we rated restaurants out of 10, and I really was putting it at about a 4 or 5,
Yeah.
And
there's repercussions from that, isn't there? Because
well, there is.
Yeah, I've often wanted to know, when it's a bit like, I suppose, reviewing wine or reviewing anything. If it's a real
Yes.
shocker, do you just park it and not print it? Or do you think, well, actually, hang on a minute, this is, you've got to take the good with the bad, and people who are going actually deserve to know, and if they're spending their money, and do you do this? So it's like,
Yeah.
do you have your consumer hat on? Or do you have your
Absolutely.
industry? How did you feel about that?
I always had the consumer hat on,
Yeah.
I'd have to say. So you're absolutely right. That's sort of the big bone of contention is why take up column inches
Yes,
in a
on something
newspaper
negative.
or for a bad book or a bad movie or a bad wine or a bad restaurant. But to my mind, you've got to take the good with the bad. And I also don't think a bad review ever puts a restaurant out of business at all. I firmly believe it doesn't, because there'll be enough supporters that just, say, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about or whatever. But you can definitely put restaurants on the map. And I am proud to say I did that with a few in Auckland that I didn't realise it, but they still are like, there's Coco's Cantina. I don't know if anyone knows of it. It's on K Road. It's an amazing cucina. And they'd sat there for about 8 weeks, 2 months, with just nobody going in there. And a friend told me about it. It was 2 sisters, and I went in there and had a great meal and gave them an 8 out of 10 or 8.5 out of 10, which was pretty high. And, from then on, they were on the map. And I'm not saying that they didn't deserve to always be on the map, but the fact is if no one knows about you,
Yeah, you
that's
shone
the
a light on
hardest
it.
thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I felt really fantastic. And then there was only a smattering of restaurants that I never gave great reviews to, and I'm sure they stayed in business or didn't because they were never going to. It wasn't because of a bad review. I don't think.
Absolutely.
But it's harsh to get reviews that are not great, I'm sure. Yeah, I really appreciate that. I understood because I'd been a business consultant and a lot of my clients had been restaurants and cafes. So it wasn't as though I was going in there blind. Yes, I had my diner's hat on, but I also knew the intricacies and the complexities of running a restaurant or a cafe. It's so much harder than it looks. We all go and sit there and have such a great time, and it is so hard to get it right. It really is, and it's a little bit of magic. It's a little bit of a lot of things. Yeah,
And it's subjective too, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think different people feel different things. So when it came to the Women's Weekly, that was, 4 recipes a week or something you were...
It was, good grief.
How
It was
did you,
4 recipes a
what-
week. Well, I got my mum, who was 85 or 80, to do some of them. We called that Mum's Kitchen. That was great. So she would do one page and I would do the other 3. And so we would test recipes and things, and then we would get together with a photographer and we would shoot maybe a couple of weeks' worth at a time. And, it was a really treated time to work with my mum. I was so impatient, though. I was terrible. And her food was, it it wasn't better or worse than mine, but she'd tell me what she was going to make, and I'd be like, really? Okay. But it was always the favourite of the photographers, and Todd and I, the photographer for World Kitchen, and I met him through, that was the photographer that I started with at Women's Weekly, and we can still, and I was just talking about it with Mum the other day, remember the day that we were standing in their lounge and we'd shot the lemon tart. I must put that in another book at some point because it's not in any of mine. And we all took a spoonful of it, and Todd and I just looked at each other as the silkiest lemon tart of Mum's just literally dissolved in our mouth in a mist of citrus. It was unbelievably amazing. But she was hard to manage, my mother.
Aren't they all?
Aren't they all? Yeah, so that was a delightful job. And of course, that finished 2 weeks into lockdown. We then heard that the Women's Weekly had closed down. Obviously, it's now resurrected, which was great. So I lost that job, which was the mainstay of my income at that point because it was well paid and I obviously really loved doing it. Yeah. But it wasn't to be.
So how did that make you feel at that point? I mean, what did you think would be next?
Well, it's a funny old thing with work. I have been very lucky in work. I've not been quite so lucky in romantic love, I like to say to people. I think you got
a grilling on that the other night, so I was going to avoid. Was anyone here on Friday night as well?
Was it Friday or yesterday?
Yesterday.
It was. I can't remember.
Yeah, Friday. Yesterday morning.
Yeah.
Even. Yeah. No. Okay. We won't go there.
But it's just, I don't, and I think there's a lot of, I don't know if it's luck or. There's something going on in this world that I don't understand. But I believe that if you can imagine it, you can create it. And you don't even have to force yourself to imagine things. They're just things that you can, they're within your realm of capability or reality or something. And funny enough, having a TV show has always been part of mine. Not in an arrogant, I reckon I'd be great on TV. Not at all like that. But when people say, can you believe you got that job? It just felt like the next step in a weird way. But for example, I've never been able to imagine myself with another person for my whole life. I've never had that in my brain. I mean, I've loved deeply people and they're not. But I've never really had that as a concept that I can grasp very easily, nor children. Yeah. So again, people say, did you never want kids? Did you want kids? It just wasn't really on my radar. And it was...
People shouldn't ask those things.
Well, they shouldn't now.
I find it really horrible.
Yeah, because a lot of...
not okay.
Yeah, absolutely. But for me, I think when friends at uni or whatever, and then started either having children or talking about, and sisters having children and that in their 30s, I was literally speechless in that it had not occurred to me, and maybe I didn't think it would have occurred to them as well, but, a good friend said, I've always wanted kids, and it was a bit like she was telling me something that I just never knew about her, and I was so surprised, and yet I didn't realise it was probably more the norm than not.
Yeah, maybe it's back to that expectations piece that you were talking about earlier, when a lot of us, we live for what other people expect us to live by, and we form things based on other people's, what we think other people want us to do in a what's expected way. Whereas
that's right. Yeah, and in fact, a phrase came to me yesterday where I thought, gosh, I find life just inexplicable. And I thought, what does that mean? As a writer, one thinks about these little phrases, and sometimes whole books come out of them. But I was thinking, it seems inexplicable. I caught up with two dear old friends yesterday, and we were sort of reviewing life and things, and we never know what's going to happen to us. And I find life one big surprise, which is not to say that it's random or chaotic, but you never really know what's up ahead, but we live with the security that we think we know, or that we think we can control it, and some things we have agency over and some things we don't. But in my case, I would also say, because I've lived slightly outside the mainstream without realising that, never realised that. And in fact, for a long time, I used to say to people, I can't stand people who spell their names differently. N-I-C-I? And I mean, I never thought it applied to me. I was like, let's let's make your name different. And then I was like, okay, so maybe it's one of those that I've got this real blind spot, and so, I mean, things are sort of easily explained if you, go off and do some training maybe and become a teacher or a plumber these are easily explained things. And it's slightly less explicable, I think, or something explainable. Anyway, but back to how did I feel about the Women's Weekly? So I was stunned, shocked and terrified, but very momentarily, because I took a walk up a hill. I find elevation is extraordinary for thinking. And so we've got a beautiful hill beside us that sort of winds up a ridge and look down on the sweeping great beach of Sunset Beach or Port Waikato. And by the time I came down from that hill, I was all good to go. I was like, this is great. Okay, I wonder what's next for me. I have no idea. But again, I don't have any sense of surety, uncertainty about it. There seems to be a sureness in me. God, I hope that's not going to run out, because I'm buggered if it does. But I've just been lucky. I'm from good working class stock, and I don't care what I do. Yeah. I'll do anything if I can get a job, and I've just been kind of pretty lucky with the ones I've had. But you don't get luck in every area of your life, I don't think, yeah.
Well, no, but I also think it's applicable to say that, the harder you work, the luckier you get. Not everything drops in our laps, even though, I feel incredibly lucky to work in the wine industry, and I think that's luck that I'm in the industry I'm in because, well, it kind of went that way. But everybody who gets to where they are going has worked to a greater or lesser extent, and I think, that there's a combo, isn't there, of opportunities that come up, but then how hard you work to actually fulfill the opportunity in front of you.
And saying yes to things. So I can distinctly remember the turning point at which I got the job really for Viva. This is, I suppose, maybe it's not even a good thing, it's sort of a who you know thing, but I was business consulting at Gosling Chapman, was really burnt out, which was the first time I met you. I remember the name, the goddess of all things wine. I still can't believe
you remember.
Absolutely, I do. Well, food and wine was and people are my thing, and I can remember being really overworked there, so I was constantly sort of on the edge, or if not middle of burnout. And one of my clients worked for Viva, but sort of in another business. So I was sort of consulting with her, and I can still remember this particular morning that she wanted to meet before work, which meant I had to drag myself down, and I was so tired. And I remember my parents saying to me, maybe I'd seen them the night before, and they were like, "Well, darling, why don't you just shift this woman, or why are you?" But there was something in me that knew I should meet her anyway, which I did. I sort of gave her my time that day. And it was her that ended up getting me the job. She ended up saying to me, "Have you ever thought about restaurant reviewing or writing?" And I was sort of, people had told me I was a good writer of business reports and plans and funding applications and things. And so, I sort of said yes to that, and it worked for me. And I just think those little opportunities, they really do whisper, they don't shout. You really never know.
That's where the courage comes in, though, isn't it? Somebody might. I mean, she didn't get you the job. She got you the opportunity. You got the job.
Yeah.
And it was about, taking risks, I guess, all the way through.
But it's but risks are so. It's such a perceived thing, isn't it? I've got no courage around other things, but I do have courage in some areas, and I think we all do. Even if you think of yourself as a shy, timid person, or a person who lacks courage, or I haven't done enough with my life, or whatever, you will have. You just need to look for those places. Yeah. And also, when you're talking about luck, I also now realise there's an awful lot of privilege involved that was quite blind to me. That I am not a person of colour in this country, and that I've always had. Though I've never relied on my parents, there is a very secure backstop there should I require it. So I also think that luck is tied in with privilege as well these days as well, and it's good to acknowledge that, so that we then don't have unrealistic expectations of other people. If I can do it, you can do it. Not starting from the same starting point on a racetrack or whatever. Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah. So there you go.
Okay, now I'm going to just come around back to the travel bits here.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm interested to know if on your travels That's a real change of subject, but sort of in the same thing. First of all, could you take your own anything with you? I mean, I presume you can't fly around the world with your own set of knives terribly easily.
Yes.
Was that a thing or not? Did you end up with a sort of a screwdriver and a a chisel somewhere in the back kitchen?
No, I love it.
How did that bit work?
Well, this is extraordinary. This is really going to let you know what making TV is all about. So I was on a cooking show, but one of the two, I think it was a half-hour show, World Kitchen. First two segments, but first one before ads and then another segment was me on the road, out in the world, meeting people, getting in some inspiration. And then the third segment was me back in my kitchen, which was not my kitchen. It was some flash kitchen we'd hired. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but but my real kitchen is on Instagram now. And that would be, I'm bringing the recipes back home. So I cooked alongside people when I went. So on the first trip, I wanted to take an iron for my wardrobe. So as opposed to my knives, which what I would have much preferred to take, I was thinking about taking, a hairdryer and an iron. But I took all of my own. I mean, I did get dressed for the show. Those were always my worst days. Of going to meet up with the wardrobe person, and we would have to go and find clothes for Nici, and I really hated it. There was something about me that made me feel incredibly inadequate as a woman. I'm from a family of, it makes me upset to think about it.
Oh, Nici.
No, it's okay. I'm from a family of 4 sisters and a mother who is gorgeous in every way and has never worn a lot of makeup or high heels, and she's the most beautiful woman that I know. And me and my sisters, none of us are particularly done, and because that looks very time consuming. And I think and also because some people just have an ability to look quite groomed. And I've never been able to be that person. I think you'll attest to this from university. I once tried to be a waitress, and I swear people would look up from their table and wonder who the hobo was next to their table. Because some people look really polished. I've got a niece, and she's a great wait person, and she just looks the part. I just always look very, very but crusty. I'm clean but never tidy somehow.
It's not a good word for
And so it's in and out of the ocean all the time, always salty and everything. So I remember, in fact, the first at the production house when we made a little pilot for the show, and that was on Waiheke Island to sort of show the client. And so I had to get dressed as, so I sort of brought along things from my wardrobe that I thought would look fantastic. And and people weren't being cruel or anything. They just sort of dismissed them or laughed or said, that won't work. And the TV industry is incredibly brutal in... if ever you've been directed, it was really good practice for me to get feedback. You can't tell me anything about the way I sort of behave or look that will offend me, because I got so used to people saying, don't talk like that. I mean, they wanted me to be me, but, Nick, you do this thing where before you say something, so, I'll try not to do that. Or, you're walking like a farmer. That was always a thing, because I'll see if I can... So I would walk, and the cameraman would say, I had to, Nick, can you walk over to number ones and we'll film you because I'm on the street in Leon. And I'd walk like this. Well, this looks like a farmer in New Zealand. None of us think it does. But, they really wanted me to look, much more sort of... I still can't do it. And darling Clayton would yell out, Wickes! You're walking like a farmer again. Oh, shit, sorry, sort of thing. So it was incredibly difficult for me to, sort of be me, but be TV me as well. And when I watched all of the shows, I was incredibly thankful for everyone who actually did get me to, put on sort of TV. TV clothes are quite big and loud, and yet they don't look like that on TV because everything is kind of brought down. That's a technical thing that actually happens. They talk about, what do they say, you put on 20 kgs on TV. Yeah. I actually am the opposite, luckily. I mean, I'm just one of these lucky people. I actually look thinner on TV than I seriously. But I don't look tidier. So there was things like that. So the first day after I'd sort of been poked and prodded and, we need to get you a better bra and all that, and I didn't care on one level because I'm because I'm really open and I'm not vain and all of that. So I didn't think I was caring about all of that. And I'll take my clothes off any time. That sounds bad, but I'm not at all modest. I'm not at all modest. And that served me really well for needing to get change or having sound people, put a pack, on the back of your undies or whatever. But I drove back around the waterfront to go and see where my parents were living in Auckland after this particular event. And I remember bursting into tears in the car and feeling sort of humiliated that there was all these things that I didn't know about being a female that I should have known. Like, they had to give me a bit of a makeup kind of lesson. And again, it was sort of a TV makeup lesson. So yes, it wasn't just your average, but I just had never felt that inadequate as to this is how a woman is supposed to look. I mean, I'm from a strong line of feminists who don't give a shit about any of that,
Yeah.
And so I really had to kind of make friends with that idea that it doesn't make me any less of a feminist to also look presentable. And if I had gone on TV looking like I wanted to look, I would have been pretty horrified. And that's not because I don't like the way I look. It just wouldn't have looked right. If you look at people on TV,
it's very polished, isn't it? It's very.
You want to
polished,
look like an iced cake, not an uniced cake.
Yeah,
I never thought about that, but I think
like
you do.
that.
Yeah,
I like.
You want
that.
the garnish.
I like that.
But the garnish looks good.
But I guess listening to that, there was an element of compromise where Nici was taken away from being Nici to a certain extent and filled up with expectation that both TV industry has and what they perceive the audience had.
Yes.
But what I find so interesting is that when somebody is in that TV mode, their personality, their character, the way they walk like a farmer, whatever, is kind of dampened down to the point where there's a homogeneousness amongst them. And the thing that makes you, in my mind, is seeing you morph into this, well, not morph, actually return perhaps to your true self. And when you look at Nici's Instagram videos through lockdown, and this was all talked about with her yesterday morning, so I'm trying not to reiterate in case a lot of you were there, but the naturalness and the everything about you is so straightforward. It's no messing, it's fearless, and it's shit, I can do that actually. I can make that. I can do that, and I actually believe you because I'm seeing what I know to be the real you. And you've only got to look at some of these to think, wow, this lady has just got it in spades. And you don't need the makeup. You don't need to be on the camera with people telling you to walk this way and do that. And when I was saying to you earlier, I looked back at some of Nici's YouTube stuff from way ago.
Way back. I think they've got quite a lot of clips of the
in a studio-y sort of kitchen, a pucker.
They've taken that bit of the show because that's where I'm making the recipes here of World Kitchen, And
I was looking at that and I had to do a bit of a double take because I wasn't quite sure that was the same Nici. But what I saw was absolute perfection as far as, this TV expectation. Yeah. But I noticed straight away her hair didn't move.
Great, I know.
And she'd reach for something and the hair was just...
Yeah, I know.
And you look at it and I think, geez, I really like the now. I just think...
Me too.
And whether it's COVID or whether it was all the other things that combine, I think, in our lives, and certainly comes with age, I want the realness. I don't want the bloody faff. I don't want the layers of, veneer. I want to see what makes that person tick. Why should I cook your things? Why should I believe this? And it's the reality that I believe is the value. It's the reality that makes you really click with whatever that is. It's not that painted version.
That's right.
And for you to live that truth now and be who you... I think clearly you just come across as being that very genuine person, and we benefit from that because we get everything that you say and do. I mean, the way you bounce around with your phone in the kitchen and,
calling in the food.
It's just so funny. But it is. It's not only you learning about how to cook something, you're actually genuinely enjoying it and you're laughing with Nici. And that's a whole different thing to the TV-ness that's just too polished sometimes. Works for some things, but maybe not others. And
it works for me a lot better now too. You know, it's just easier to be natural when you haven't had this kind of thing, you know, this mask on.
Yeah.
You know, you're trying to be, that's the big challenge, is you're trying to be you.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was, at the time that World Kitchen came out, you know, the reviews were great and they were all about how natural I was, how cheeky and irreverent and all of those things. But, you know, it was quite a lot of effort to get to that place when I'd been sitting in a makeup chair for you know, sometimes an hour or two.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, honestly, you know. And then there's also, and it's not just that, and I don't want to ruin the experience of being on TV because it was extraordinary for me, but there's also a lot of stop-start. So, you know, you've really got to hold the naturalness. So it wasn't just the look. It was also the, you know, I'm full flight into talking about a dish and how much I love it. And then the sound guy goes, oh, I'm out of battery. Or, no, or there's a helicopter. Oh. Or we've got to change the SIM card. Or, you know, there's a lot going on. Yeah. It's extraordinary. So I always, and I did say this yesterday, but I will reiterate it, that all of my cooking is really basic, really achievable, because I think there's so much hype from watching TV cooking shows now. I mean, I'll watch MasterChef for entertainment occasionally, and I wouldn't know how to cook any of those things, and nor would I really want to. It seems very overworked. I want to make meals that people can really enjoy, and I particularly want to make meals for people who are in households of one or two, and that they can particularly just enjoy throwing something fab together that will probably, you know, it'll work out whether you forget about it because you're off doing out the back and hanging out the washing and you come back, oh shit. And that is really because of the TV thing was all stop, start. So there could be nothing exacting about it. And I can't stand waste. So I don't want us to make half a dish and then that's ruined. So I would ditch that and start again, because also there's a lot of waste in that involved, and I didn't want to do that. So, yeah. And it's funny because I haven't, somebody pointed out for them what was the magic of this series of books around the quiet kitchen the other day, and I hadn't understood that. But someone contacted me and said, what I love is that there's just your kitchen and, you know, there's stuff around. It's not all curated. And so Todd is the most extraordinary photographer, and he'll, you know, I mean, I look at this photo now of me stuffing my face with the sweet corn and I'm a bit like, oh, Jesus, I'd clearly been for a swim that morning. My hair's still wet, you know, oh, God. And it's a bit of a nightmare, but that's sort of what people are attracted to, as you say.
Exactly.
And likewise, the sort of aspiration of you can live at home and have all this stuff around that adds to the juiciness of your life.
It does, but it also adds to the fact that anybody could cook those dishes, because my kitchen and probably the kitchen of most people here, we live in it.
That's right.
It's reality for us, and if it's reality for you, it makes us feel we can do it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have all these top-line amazing pans that are hundreds and hundreds of dollars and all of these things.
Me.
And, you know, I love that enamel, that orangey, black enamel-y thing that looks like it's, you know,
it's been through the ringer. I got that for $1.99 at a that's a Le Creuset, but I did, which I have a few of because I love them.
Yes.
And I got that one at a garage sale, and I got something on Facebook once, a message from a woman, and it after one of the videos where I was using that pan, and she said, I should quote you directly. It wasn't, hey, I love your recipes, you're amazing, and it just said, get rid of that pan, it's disgusting.
Oh my God, what makes people think they can say these things?
Don't know, but I blocked her. I just was like, wow. Yeah. I looked where she was from because I thought, well, you know, if she's just down the road, I might not block her. But and I went, why am I even going down this rabbit hole? I just went, okay, we'll block you. I just thought that was so extraordinary. Yeah, well, I mean, that just felt ungenerous.
Oh, I could think of several things to say to that, but I won't. Anyway, we're going to wheel this back round a bit, because you just mentioned really from those days and cooking and doing those things to your current books, which are very much about I feel, is about food for nurturing the single person.
Yeah.
And actually encouraging people to go and make food that you can enjoy, even when it's just you. And I think that by taking the small amount of time that your recipes take, it means we are cooking, we are feeling worth cooking something. Because how bad are we, some of us, it's going to be, right, I'm going to have that omelette again. I eat a lot of omelettes.
But you told me about your omelette and it sounded fantastic. That's not just any ordinary omelette.
Well, I do stick something in it, but nevertheless, it's an omelette. I'm never going to look at an omelette in the same way again.
Oh, no.
Anyway, so, but it might be, people might have the beans on toast or the this or the that, and it's because you can't be bothered. And let's face it, a lot of us after a long day can't be bothered, and we're always going to have evenings like that.
Yeah.
But I find if we take that time, it might be 20 minutes to cook something and sit and eat it.
Yeah.
There's actually something lovely in the cooking of it.
Absolutely.
It's a really good, personally speaking, it's a good thought space for me.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a thing from the work day and into relaxed mode for the evening or whatever. And I end up sitting there eating the omelette or whatever. We're worth that, aren't we? I mean, let's not just do the something on toast every night for those of us that are kind of only catering for one. It's
because I think sometimes women, it's not always women, but let's just talk about parents in general, and they've done a lot of cooking over their life for kids. I mean, God knows children seem to just need feeding. They're like lions. And they and you're just feeding and you're constantly doing that. So it does get a bit boring, and or not even boring, but maybe onerous.
Yeah, or you get in a rut. And you get in a rut,
yeah. And I'm even like that when friends come to stay, if they stay too long, which is 3 days is too long, 2 days is fine. But, because I love to cook and and I'm doing all of that, but by the end of it, it's a bit like, because I feel like I have a choice every time I choose to cook. Of course, I choose to cook at least twice a day, but it does feel like a choice. Whereas when you're trotting out meals for years on end, those children never leave now, and so
or they do, and then they come back.
Oh my God, I did.
Which I love.
Or a husband or a wife, So you're cooking and cooking and cooking, and so I think sometimes for grown-ups, when they are either left alone or empty nested, maybe there's two people in a household. There is this sort of like, oh, great, we can just sort of do what we like, and maybe that means we don't want to cook very much. We just want to have the omelette or even the ready-made meal or whatever. But I do think that the process of cooking is a really great way to decrease anxiety and to bring happiness. I truly believe handling things. I mean, remember there's, occupational therapy is about doing something with hands to take mind off neuroses, because brain just wants to go to negativity. But it doesn't need to. It can be, I'm just chopping, I'm just doing this. And then you've got to be very mindful when you're cooking. You can't, yes, you can daydream a bit, and, if you've done a lot of cooking, I can think about more things, but more often than not, I'm just thinking about what's in front of me, which is really great. You've sort of got to, and I think that's a wonderful little space in the day to do that. So I think it's very therapeutic, but and I'm not skiting or anything, but probably maybe twice a year I will cook something that doesn't work. It's not elaborate, but I just wasn't in flow, and I'll cook something. I'm trying to think of the last thing that really didn't work. I can't, but and I get the experience of what it's like to not be a good cook or not enjoy cooking. Because when it doesn't work out, that's so depressing.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
When it just doesn't.
My Sunday lunch with all the family, my dad over from the UK and everything else, that didn't work. It ended up with a really bad smell and a fire extinguisher.
Classic, oh dear. Yeah, and you had guests, and I'm only generally disappointing myself and my cat who doesn't.
I failed everybody spectacularly.
I like it. Yeah. Good on you. We put too much emphasis on it. It should be funny, but I know what that feels like, and I'm like, this is what people who don't like cooking feel like, which is, this didn't really work. And now I feel deflated.
Yes, and
I don't get that lovely feeling
push
of
yourself
enjoyment.
to try again.
Yeah. But I think through these books too, I think as much as cooking for one, I want people to, so the recipes, of course, they're important and they tie in with the chapters, but I don't know why I started writing these and about this, a life lived alone but not lonely, and how we need to get out of that rut. We need to take that narrative out of our lexicon about the poor person who lives alone. Oh, he's lost his wife. Oh, he lives alone now, or she, never married or whatever. We end up alone lots of times in our life for whatever reason. I mean, a good friend of mine whose marriage is just split up of 25 years. And, this is a surprise to her and it's a gentle disintegration, but it's tough. And so it's about how to kind of, as much as anything, I want these books to be a little bit of a comfort blanket for you, as in, I'll have bad days, there's no doubt about that, but I presume you do in a partnership, marriage, family as well. Yeah?
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah, there you go. So, I think I don't think it's that. I think, and we talk a lot about loneliness now, and that's why it's the first chapter in my latest book about solitude and loneliness. And in fact, I've heard it already once this weekend, someone say, oh yes, loneliness, it's an epidemic. And people, I think, believe the solution to that is being connected to others. And I don't believe that. I believe it's a connection to oneself, first and foremost, because that's where the work has to be. You have to love yourself or tolerate yourself at the very least, because that's who you're spending most of your time with. And from there, develop some connections out there. And I can just say that because I used to have a much more sociable life and have a lot more people around me and relationships and things in my life. But I was very disconnected to me in my sort of 20s and 30s, drinking a lot to sort of probably hide that fact to myself. And it wasn't until I let those things drop away and this sort of for the silence and the calm and the quietness to come in that I thought, okay. And COVID, I think, was in some ways the full stop to that, which was an uninterrupted time where I could recover properly from adrenal fatigue, where I could really get to know myself, where I could go through the downs and understand that, they do go away. I never knew that because when everything was open, if I started to feel too discontent, restless, stagnant, depressed, I would book a trip somewhere or
stick a Band-Aid on it.
Stick a Band-Aid on it in some way. And back in the drinking days, which I didn't realise, the Band-Aid was drink, which I'd go and have a big blowout and sleep with someone new or pash someone, I don't know. I was young, forgive me. And that would temporarily be a drama for me that I would then work through. And then by then, I think what had happened is the mood had lifted anyway, but the drama had taken my eye off it. COVID, I got to go, bit of a sort of, I'll have 2 good weeks and then I might have a bit of a wobble. And then if I just sit with that, that'll go. And that's an age thing too, probably, as well as medication. Take the medication, people. Don't treat it as a challenge.
Oh, God, I love that. I think after, we've talked about, we've gone, a little bit deeper here than perhaps some of my questions were going to suggest. Like I was going to ask you something about, have there been any really horrendous dishes and things you've had to face, which all sounds a bit trite now. I must admit, I did a bit double take at the pigeon feast.
Oh, the pigeon feast in Egypt, yeah. Whew, that was, yeah.
That didn't look very...
That man was scary.
Yeah.
And yes, you were getting right in there, weren't we?
Yeah.
It was beautiful, though. It was really yummy. Yeah, pigeon's beautiful.
I think I've only eaten pigeon once, and it was served rare.
Right.
And I was literally looking for the dog under the table.
Right.
It was like, how do I not eat this?
Oh, really? Okay.
So when I saw pigeon feast and thought, shoot,
dear.
that sounds like more than one pigeon in a go.
They don't have a lot of meat on them.
That sounded terrible. But obviously you overcame that or enjoyed that.
Probably the most difficult thing I had to eat on World Kitchen came in the very first episode, which was that we filmed. I don't recall if that was the first one that aired, but it was in Lyon. So we had gone that was our first destination, and we went to this chicken restaurant that specialised only in poulet, and I had to eat chicken ceviche, which was raw. The kitchen was quite warm. This was at the beginning of our 3-week trip. But we're paranoid in this country
Totally
about raw
paranoid.
chicken. I know,
Totally.
we need to get over ourselves. I'm not saying go and eat raw chicken tonight,
No.
but we really are a bit paranoid. So they sliced off this thin chicken. It was such a baptism by fire. So I ate it. It was, whatever,
It wouldn't have had much
Tasted
flavour,
like
would
chicken.
it? Yeah.
You know how things that anything tastes like chicken. And it didn't have a lot of flavour. I mean, whatever. I mean, I don't recall much of that. But I was thinking, oh God, all right, okay, well, we're doing this. And then so we did the whole thing, and I can't even actually, it probably didn't even make the cut when I think about it, because
They'd have
Teagle,
been
who
worried
sponsored the
about-
show, wouldn't have wanted that in. But anyway.
Yeah.
And then I'd finished the whole thing, and then would you believe, and it's the only time it ever did happen, the soundie, Clayton, who then became our key cameraman, and he's a good friend of mine now, he said, I'm really sorry, but the battery had gone, so we didn't catch any of Nicci's audio.
Oh, my God.
So I had to do it all again.
Oh,
I
no.
know. But I'm also reminded, this is a complete offshoot, but it was one of the things that will still stick in my head about international travel and language. So that was after the first night. And bear in mind, I was 40 and a half, 41, 42 when all of this began. And I was travelling with a group of 29 and 31. I think that's how old they were. There was just 4 of us. And they were all TV and film. They were very cool. And I wasn't. I was trying to be. And it was the most fun I've ever had. Life it was so fun to be with these young idiots. They were just glorious. They're all really good mates now. And, but, I was sort of pretending I was sort of okay. I'd never been to Europe, so I was completely jet lagged. I'd never been on TV. I didn't know how to do this, so I was probably a bit bolder than I really felt. But then after the first day's wrap, I didn't know these people very well. They all knew each other quite well as they were in the industry. We went to this really crowded Lebanese restaurant, and of course they all looked to me for sort of food advice, but I was like, I don't know. So I've got Lebanese sort of in-laws in the family. So I said, well, let's go to this Lebanese place, So we went to this beautiful big Lebanese restaurant, and we were all sitting around. It was crowded and it was noisy. And I remember Clayton was telling, that was the key cameraman, DOP, he was telling a story about how his mother, he's from Christchurch, how his mother liked to steal, borrow spoons from restaurants that she went to or something. And I just sort of caught the tail end of this. And I don't know what made me say this, but I said, I didn't know him very well, but I just sometimes open my mouth. And I opened my mouth and I said, he was talking about the spoons and who's stealing them. And I said, what, is your mother a whore? I don't know to this day. And the whole restaurant, because there's one word that is quite universal, and I said it in a joking way, and it was, but it would just resound. There was mostly Lebanese people in the restaurant, and they all understood this word. And because I was trying to be cool or something, I don't know what I was. They were very snappy. I was trying to be snappy, but it was a good icebreaker. It was. So I was sort of very out of character with these people until I got to know them after about the first week of being on the road with them, and then we just got on absolutely famously. But you never say the right thing when you're trying hard. Never.
I think I'm lacking in some knowledge as to why spoons relate to the other word.
I don't know either. I mean, it was. I don't know. I mean, it was sort of like,
Okay, we'll park
anyway,
that one
park
just for a
that one,
second.
park
Shall we
that,
park
yeah.
that one? Because I think we're almost up to the time for asking for
Oh,
questions.
good. Okay. Don't ask me why I said that.
But no, But I'm going to tell you something that I think could be interesting, and that is my crash course on Nici Wickes and everything that I've experienced with you in this short time, and reading and looking and watching this amazing person and hearing all the things you've done in your life. To me, your next book could well be a combination of those things that actually talks about people. And I hate the expression self-help book because that kind of sounds a bit mocking in a way. But
I love it.
I think that this path that you're on,
Yeah.
listening to Nici talk, don't you think? There's a lot of wisdom there, and there's a lot of things that could be shared other than cooking, but of which cooking has brought out. And I think that I personally would love to see that book, however that would be,
Okay.
talking about from your leadership skills, your people skills, how to find yourself, how to connect, how to give yourself space, all of those things, and bring them together. I think that you would be an amazing
Thank you.
inspiration for a lot of us.
Well, that's a huge compliment because, you know, I never had another desire to write just a plain recipe book. And these books have been described by many people as self-help books.
They are. They're much more than a recipe book.
They are. They just masquerade as a cookbook.
Yeah.
And some people I know never read all that stuff. They probably get a few sentences in and it's just not their thing. And they're like, oh, but they love the recipes.
Yes.
And other people I know don't cook from them, but they sit up in bed and they read the books all in one go and they're really reading the chapters. So, yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Multi-talented and someone that it's been an absolute delight to know. And we have got time for some
Great.
questions. I think somebody's got a microphone, hopefully. Oh, up the back there. Oh, yes, hello. Can't see a thing. Right, questions, please. Anybody going to ask something? I mean, I got a raft of them. I can keep going, but I think I'll get in trouble, so.
Anything at all, even if it's something that you think might sound really stupid. Oh, good. The hands instantly went up.
Oh, well done.
Oh, no, just stretching. Oh, no.
Oh.
Yeah, question.
Bidding for something.
Oh, keeping us on our toes.
Hi, Nici. Love your Instagram.
Oh, great. Thank
There's
you.
nothing quiet about your Instagram. Red light. Nothing quiet. So quiet kitchen just seems a little bit of an irony to
Great
me. Can you
question.
explain?
Great question. I guess it was around the quietening down of myself. And it was that I'd finally, look, there'll be other things up ahead, I know. But I really feel as though I've quietened down in my soul. So you're right. You know, most people that knew me, quiet kitchen, but I am quiet so much of the time. It is big. And I love it and I rely on it. And it's just that I find people absolutely irresistible. You know, I have this great curiosity for others. And so when I'm in your presence, I find it difficult not to be really finding out everything about and sharing human experiences as a way of growing humanity. But I spend an awful lot of time lying around doing very little and just gazing at my cat, who I find infinitely gorgeous and animal-like, strangely. And so when I'm out in the world, I'm out in the world. But Port Waikato really saved my life in that it's a very small, quiet community that I really enjoy, and I prefer to have the going out on my terms. And I did say it yesterday, I feel incredibly lonely when I'm in big cities. I feel like I'm not sociable enough and I don't know, everyone seems to be going out and having a good time and that's not what I want to do. At the port, everyone stays at home, there's nothing to do, and I love that. So that's, I think, where the quietness comes from. So you're right. And the Instagram is what goes on in my head most days. It's sort of, when I'm cooking, it's all lower. Because I don't, oh, look at that, my glasses have just broken. Good Lord. How interesting. I have been fiddling. There's no sort of organised and mise en place. There's, I want to eat that, I'm going to make that. Oh, I haven't got 4 of those ingredients of the 5. I know I'll do this. I'm just sort of grabbing stuff. And that's what I hope you get and what you see. I haven't set anything up before I put my camera on generally. I do edit a bit of stuff out just because they're too long, and I cannot get them down to 30 seconds, though. That seems ridiculous. But anyway, so yeah, good question. Where does that come from? There's a quietness in all of us, and I think that's what we need to find not happiness, that's an illusion, but some sense of contentedness anyway. Yeah.
That's great.
And I'm not always contented, by the way. I'll go home after this, I'll be tired, I'll wonder what I'm doing with my life. I'm being really honest here. Just, I will fly back today, I will be tired tomorrow, which is normal, but I just never knew it was normal. And I'll think, did anything I say, was that interesting? oh, what am I doing with my life? I live in this place, all these other people, they're more amazing. I'll go through all of that. And then I'll come out about Wednesday. I won't go too far down, but I'll swim and then just go, oh, that was it because I was a bit tired. Yeah.
Nici, I'm really intrigued that you swim in the ocean as often as you can, but there must be days when you think, oh, Lord, I don't want to do that. So how do you motivate yourself to get into the water on those days when it's...
Yeah. So I'm staying at the Twig, and it's amazing. If you have any visitors that are ever visiting, see if you can get them to stay there. It's beautiful. And there's a swimming pool there, and I checked that out before I came because I do love to swim all the time. It really resets me. And it was really cold. I did go in yesterday. It was very cold. And I didn't stay in long. And I dressed up. I had my togs on, and I put my puffer on and went round and got in. And I didn't want to. And there's really a day in the cooler weather. I prefer winter swimming than summer swimming, but there's really a day in the winter when I want to go for a swim, but I sort of, so I just ignore that. That's just my brain, which is boring. And so I dress really warmly, which was what a friend told me to do, put your togs on, and then put all the clothes on, and then just when you get to the beach, take it all off and go in. And that sounds really obvious as advice, but it was great advice. So I don't want to go. In fact, I posted a little thing just a little while ago, a story of me going, this is what going for a swim looks like, which is, I don't want to go. I don't have to go. There's no one telling me to go. I don't need to go at all. And I'm still going out to to get my bike. And I'm like, yeah, it's a terrible day. I don't want to go. I got down to the beach, over the cold sand. I'm like, why am I doing this? This is so dumb. Who do I think I am? This is such a dumb idea. I get into the water and I'm up to here and I'm up to here and I'm like, ooh. And then I'm under the first wave and I'm back up and I feel fantastic. And I go under 3 waves. So I'm not an ocean swimmer. I just don't live at a beach where I could be an ocean swimmer. It's too rough. So I go under, a few waves and I come out and I'm literally reborn. And I feel everything feels warm as it did yesterday when I got out of the swimming pool. I was like, wandered around in my togs and everything was warm. I went out and got some firewood with just the towel on me and I felt warm. I feel warm and all my cells are alive for the first time that day. They're all tingling and I don't have a hot shower afterwards and I don't have a spa or anything to warm up because it's not worth it. I want that feeling. And the science of it is that it completes an adrenal cycle by cold water swimming. And a cold shower will do the same. I think hitting your head over the head with a frying pan would do the same. I honestly do. I think it's doing something that you don't want to do and doing it anyway. I think that's the secret. I honestly do. So it completes an adrenal cycle, which means you flush out cortisol. Because other than that, all of us are sitting with a lot of heightened expectation all the time. Are there any messages on my phone? What's my next session? We're all the time, and that never really goes away and leads to sort of quite a lot of anxiety and overthinking. If you wonder what anxiety is, it's just, in my case, it's just overthinking. So that really flushes it out of me. And I get out and I'm so relaxed and I'm just Miss Cruisy, but I forget all of that the next day that I go for a swim. I really do. The next day I go through the same routine, but I no longer go, shall I go, shan't I go? I'm just going. I gather people do that with exercise. I have never, times when I've gotten to that, but not very often. And people get to that with gardening or whatever it is. You know that it might not be your most favourite thing, but you've got to do it. Yeah, so that's what I do.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel like the same way about therapy, to be frank. In fact, I really do. I never want to go, but I always come out feeling better, so there you go. Anyway.
Oh, gosh.
I want to say thank you all in case I don't get another chance to say, we talk about people who put these festivals on, but I want to say thank you to you all as well for coming here because it's you that encourages the ongoingness of such festivals.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for reading books.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
Unless there's an absolutely burning question, I think we're going to actually conclude at this point. Nici's going to go and sign some books. I really recommend both books for the reasons that you will have easily garnered from this conversation, is that it's more than just recipes. And for that reason, it makes them incredibly special. And I really have thoroughly enjoyed reading them, and I've also been cooking out of them.
Great.
My boys returned home last weekend, very briefly, my 23-year-olds, and yes, they eat a lot. And I made your peanut butter cookies.
Oh, yum.
Yeah,
Oh,
and a
those are
couple
good.
of other bits, just practicing, you know. So great recipes, very doable, but the rawness and the fearlessness that you show in your writing is fabulous, and it's really been a privilege to do this. And Nici, thank you so much. Nici Wickes.
Thank you very much, Belinda. You're amazing. Thank you. Great. And contact me anytime on Instagram or Facebook when you're thinking of making a recipe of mine, or it hasn't worked, or whatever. I love to hear from you, and I do respond to questions around, I didn't have this ingredient, what would I use next time, that sort of thing. I might not respond in time, but I will respond. I promise. Lovely.
you.
Gorgeous.
Well done.